Hello, everybody, and welcome to Profits Lessons from the Trenches. Today, we have a guest that is really going to save your business, and his name is Donny Mashiach he's the founder and CEO of Warrior Group. Now, Donny, tell us, how are you going to save our business?
Well, thanks for having me on, Craig. Well, I can tell you what we do and how we attempt to save businesses. Well, let me start a little bit further back. Warrior Group is a professional platform full of ex-investment bankers, private equity firms, consultants, Big Four accountants, folks that have spent their time in industry and are really passionate about helping entrepreneurs grow and scale their business and help them win. And what we do is we embed within a team, mostly on the financial side, sometimes on the strategy and operations side, companies that are in cash flow crunches or companies that are looking to scale and looking for how to do that. We embed within their team and then we help them grow as their strategic partner.
You talk about your team. I have looked up your team. You're talking, each member of your team basically has decades of in-depth experience in their field. They could be working for any of the big four, any of the banks at all, and most of them have, by the way. They are that experienced. How do you manage to get them on board with you and make them available to people like myself? They're just too experienced to be bothered with people like me, I would have thought.
Yeah, great question, Greg. Actually, it's funny, when we set out to start Warrior, we didn't really come with the solution for the client first. We really came with the solution for our team first. How do we attract all-star talent and then give them to the growing businesses as the cheat code? Because that's how we knew we were going to win. My COO and myself, we were thinking, well, the biggest thing that we can offer other talented folks who've been in industry, been in experience, and now want to do something more entrepreneurial and help the growing companies is give them an infrastructure and team behind them. Whereas Warriors become a platform, and on that platform, you have clients and all the business development that, let's say, comes in through that platform. And there's also a team of analysts who are doing valuations, financial modeling, all of the research and things like that in order to support the CFOs and the consultants. And so therefore, it's an entrepreneurial platform where people who've been in industry, have had experience, want to be part of a team, a platform, and a community, and can just plug in their talent and have a back-end team do a lot of that work for them. That's really powerful. And to do that with their own clients and manage on their own time, that I think is a winning proposition. That has then allowed us to then offer to the clients a deal team, industry professionals, and that's ultimately how we've won. We started with people and product first.
These people that you have on your books, so to speak, as your partners, as your colleagues there, they could be paid 300K easily, and probably have been, or in the past, easily.
Yeah.
But what is amazing with this for me is that if I'm setting up a business, I don't need to pay them for K, because I only need them for a certain amount of time. I need their guidance, their wisdom, their experience to come on board and just, hey, you need to fix this, this, and this. Because of their experience, my expectations, and I think I'm just about to run you out of business here, by the way, sorry about that, is that they will be able to come on board, and within an hour, they're going to be able to identify 90% of the issues that your business has.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So part of our value proposition of the clients is, and we were thinking about this, how do you take an experienced professional that can make $300,000, $400,000 a year and then plug it in and make it affordable for the small businesses? And the model we came up with is, well, let's do it on a fractional basis, right? More of consultancy as opposed to full-time in-house. You'll get the expertise, you'll get the partnership, you'll get the mind and being able to bounce ideas off whoever the CFO is or whoever the consultant is, but you don't need them full-time. Chances are you need them in an oversight position to help you grow and have that person in the room with you. Because there's a lot of founders that have felt chaos and they felt uncertainty and they wake up every morning and they're going through operations and it's another day and it's almost like they have a good business, they have an independent operation, they're growing, they're making money, sometimes they're not. But then it's like, well, how do I get to the original goal that I wanted my business to be? Every person's business is a vehicle for something, right? And for some people, it's monetary. For some people, it's community. For some people, it's employee-based. For some people, it's different. And at a certain point, you're 2, 3, 4 years in, and you look back and you say, well, what happened to my original goals? I kind of got stuck in the chaos of the operations, and there's so much going on. How do I have a high-level view of it? And that's really where we come in, like someone who's seen businesses scale, that has done, let's say, in the M&A world, deals of $1 billion and seen the infrastructure of those companies, or been an accountant for a private equity firm for those businesses, can come in and say, hey, I don't need a lot of time to tell you what I need to do here. Obviously, I'll be your partner through it, but you don't need me full time. And I can get you 80% of what you need, let's say a $300,000, $400,000 full-time person for a fraction of that cost. And so it's affordable and it works.
I'm in Australia. We haven't come to grips with this fractional stuff yet. I antagonistically use the word stuff at the end of that because it isn't in our psyche yet. And it really should be. If you look on the job boards, it's always, we want a full-time, we want someone. You don't need someone full-time. What you need is a A-grade player for a fractional piece of time and then give it to your normal staff to deal with. You need a plan. You need to know what you don't know and have it identified so that you can go and look it up, find out how to work it, then bounce it back.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, if you've ever talked to somebody like yourself, you've scaled businesses and then you're able to watch out for what not to do, right? And a lot of founders find themselves that they're doing something for the first time. They make a lot of wrong turns. Why don't you save yourself 5, 10 years and have somebody in the room that's done it? Right? I do it for myself. I'm sure you've done it for yourself, for mentors. Like, what if you had that person in your corner before you took all the wrong turns, right? What would that do to your business?
But it costs money.
It'd be everything, but it'd be everything.
It costs money. I can't afford to go and hire someone.
Right. So you can have it at a fraction and a fraction of the cost with it.
So a fraction of the cost with decades of experience supported by, you explained before that you've got analysts in the background as well that are supporting the people that you're dealing with as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So you've got a whole team.
Correct. So I came from the investment banking industry. My background was in mergers and acquisitions. I was at one bank where we were doing deals of, let's say, $10 to $150 million of revenue for companies, and then another company where we're doing 300 million up to, my biggest deal was, I think, a couple $1 billion. So I had a lot of fun. I had a good time. And then when I came to the fractional world, what I realized was that most of the folks are doing the work where one fractional CFO or one fractional consultant will do everything on their own. They'll update the model, the pitch deck, they'll be interfacing with the client. It becomes a lot for one person to do. So the thought was, well, hold on a second. In the investment banking world, you bifurcate. There's a lot of hierarchy, right? And there's a managing director, a vice president, an associate, and an analyst. I said, well, maybe we could replicate that in the fractional world. And we could take away the need for one individual to do everything and focus on where they really add value, where they're good at, right? And so for us, the people with decades of experience, they don't necessarily want to be doing everything, and nor should they be doing everything. They're there because they have great experience and they have the insights to provide. Now, could they also be doing the financial model and plugging in the numbers? Yeah, but that's not a great use of their time. So the idea is the infrastructure with all of our analysts, they're spending all their time in Excel and PowerPoint and doing research, doing all those things on the execution front so that the CFOs can be on the strategic front, interfacing with the client and doing what they do best, which is where the real value comes in. Another part of it is that in the fractional world, a lot of folks will kind of just send out reports and they'll say, hey, take this, and this is the execution part of it. But that's not where the real value comes in. The real value comes in is having a partner to take you to that next stage of growth and being in the room with you.
Well, I'm not just talking here, I'm also practicing as well. So yesterday I had a meeting with a new partner of mine, in actual fact, a gentleman called Ziggy Frankenfeld. And I said, this guy's got extensive experience in the geographical region that I'm interested in. He's got it from the top to the bottom. And I said to him, I went through what I was working on. And I said, I'd like you on board. Where do you see yourself as fitting? And then he described where he felt that he could add value. I said, no, I don't like that at all. I said, I don't want that. I said, I can do that component. But I said, where I'm lacking experience is here and here. And he said, well, I'm really good at that. I said, I know. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking. I said, can you do that part and do that part, the beginning and the end, the acquisition of a deal and the carve out to the PE was the specifics that I was talking about. I said, can you do that part? He said, yeah, easily. He said, I do that all the time. He said, but I don't want to do it full time. I said, excellent. I said, I don't want you full time. I said, and in between the start and the beginning, I said, I want you to have an 18-month break as well. I said, I don't want to see you. This is the components, the two components that I needed sorting out. I don't know whether that's your perfect example of fractional, but it fits the case. I don't need a full-time person there. I need someone with skills in both of those areas. I'm fortunate that this person has both of those skills and experience in both of those arenas. So as a result, I'm able to take him on board. Now,
Yeah.
that is just filling my gaps perfectly. And his requirement was that he didn't want to be on full time. So
Right.
again, I filled his requirements as well.
Right. Well, I'd say, I mean, definitely that falls into one of our lines of business, falls more into our transaction services, where you have founders or companies looking for inorganic acquisition, right? The way I think about it is that growth comes in two ways. There's organic, which is more operational, where a CFO comes in, and then there's more inorganic, where it's more transactional, right? And there's buy side and things like that, or acquisitions, and that's where the other type of CFO comes in, right? The people with the M&A and private
Mm,
equity backgrounds and capital markets. We're fortunate to have folks from both sides, right? That's where the accounting and CFOs of large corporations comes in on one side, and we also have folks like myself and other folks on our team that have been more in the M&A world as well. And so we're able to support the full life cycle regardless of the growth that they're looking for, organic and inorganic. On the organic side, it's much more on the operational, how do we improve the business? Not just how do we get it to be where it's not leaking cash, but how do you get it to the point where the original goals the founder set out to are accomplished? Because once you fix the business, it's not over, right? Everyone has problems and pain points, and the business has financial issues and things like that. Once you cover that, let's say 6 months in, right? Now you're optimizing, and let's say it's a 5 million revenue business, but you originally set out for it to be a 20 million revenue business for you to get your goals. How do you get there? So we do things like we're benchmarking against the larger industries, right? The larger companies and publicly traded companies in the industry. And we're seeing what ratios are they doing? What can we glean from them? We're looking at the market insights and the more global economy. How does it affect the business? How do we allocate capital? We have cash in the bank. There's 5 things that you can do with it. Are you going to put it into investments? Are you going to do dividends? Are you going to pay back shareholders? Like all of these decisions happen even after the company's been optimized in order for you to reach the goals, opening new segments, getting rid of seasonality. There's a million things, as you know, and a lot of times, actually, when it goes into the transactional world, people bring out a CFO a few years earlier because when they're exit planning, you have to take care of those things that investors will look at way beforehand, right? You can't fix customer concentration. If you have 80% of your revenues coming from one customer, you're not going to be able to fix that at the time of sale. And if you have your supplier, you only have one supplier in a place where there's high tariffs, and therefore there's problems in the supply chain, you're not going to be able to fix that with 3 months, right? In order when you're at the sale. So part of it is an outside look at the business is what would an investor see and how do we address those problems operationally before the sale? Then when the sale comes, it's really nice to have somebody who's been in your corner, understands your business to then be able to play that role of, we'll call it the CFO or the transactional advisor when you're selling.
yes, absolutely. Just think that's true. Now, there was another conversation that I had a couple of days ago with my CEO. I said to him, look, I said, we're building a business here. I said, your experience is only from the 1 million to the 10 million. But I said, once we go above that, I said, let's be frank. I said, you're a partner as well as CEO here. But I said, you're not going to be the right person to run a 10 to $100 million business.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we're going to have to get someone else in. And that's where, again, going to an organization like yours, where you've got fractional professionals that have decades of experience and a team supporting them, go to them and say, okay, who is the right person? How do we you're talking about the CFO before. It's the same thing there. The CFO that you have for a 1 to 10 million role is far cry from a CFO that you need from a 10 to 100 million.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say even more than that is that each entrepreneur at different stages has to relearn and unlearn certain lessons, right? And so, for example, an entrepreneur starting from nothing has to do everything on their own. At a certain point, an entrepreneur doing everything on their own is problematic to the business, and they have to learn how to delegate and manage people, right? And so, as you grow from 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 5 million, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 30, whatever it is, there's a bunch of different things that come into play that may be the total opposite of what you had learned and you've been successful in to get you to that point. And you take somebody who's been there throughout the life cycle of these businesses, that's seen a $0 to $1 million business, a $2 to $10 million business, a $10 to $100 million business, maybe even a $500 million business. Someone who's seen how each of those businesses thrive in their weight class is very helpful. And so the best thing is to have somebody who's seen it all, right? Because then they can pinpoint it. The other part of it is, what industry are you lining up in? Are you in consumer? Are you in industrial? And all of a sudden, all those nuances of industry and how the supply chains work and how the customer processes work, all those things, they come into play. Now, for us, right, whenever we have a new client, that's how we align it. We'd say, who has experience with this specific type of business in terms of industry, in terms of what the client's looking for, in terms of their goals. Obviously, there has to be a relationship fit of what they're looking for, and we align it. And that's the amazing thing about having a team like ours, is that we can also, you mentioned this earlier, we can plug in where people specialize. When you get a full-time person, you take them for everything. You take them for all of their great things and also some of their not great things, and they have a specific job, which I'd say is probably most of their value, right? That's 80%. And then they have a lot of, let's say, busy work or other things they're doing in the background. What if you could specialize and take the specific talent that you're looking for and plug it into the specific gap that you're looking for, instead of coming with everything in between? It's almost like this pure specialization is a extremely beneficial option for folks, and it's also cost effective.
Now, Donnie, I've chatted with fractional people before. You're not the first.
Okay.
So I've chatted with fractional CFOs, fractional HR people, all of that sort of stuff. You're the only person that I've spoken to that has the team behind them, has the whole repertoire, the whole lot covered behind you. You don't just have one field covered. So that's why I think that the Warrior Group is so important. Now, I've also been doing my research on you since we last spoke. You're still looking for staff as well. You're out there actively looking for more staff. So business must be good.
Yes. So it's interesting is that you start off more general. So the idea was build the team and then people will come, right? Build the product and then they'll come. And we did that. Right. And we built the team first. We built the infrastructure. We spent a lot of time in it, getting the right fit and the right people. What ends up happening is that we've done really good work for folks and they're excited about it. I don't think the market's seen this type of option with this type of bench and caliber in the fractional space and in the space of the entrepreneurs that we're working with in the size range. It's really true value add. Now, because of that, we're getting a lot of referrals because we do good work. And each one of our CFOs and each one of our consultants gets a few more referrals. So what ends up happening is we get more into each space that we go into. We get one client, let's say in jewelry and accessories, right? And then they all have friends and they say, hey, this is something really cool, right? Why don't you take a look? And so all of a sudden, we have a bunch of folks in that space. And then we have some in tech where it says people are raising capital and they need reporting packages and things for their investors and a lot of interesting data cuts. And they say, hey, you should really think about this. And so we kind of find ourselves in interesting niches. The most recent one is I call it the creative consumer space. Jewelry, accessories, apparel, fashion, the creative minds, right, that are really good at operations, that have gotten the business to be something real. And they say, hey, I'd love some financial oversight as well, so I can focus on the business and be able to understand what cash flow is going to look like in 6 months and understand my inventory better, right? So we've gotten a lot of referrals, and I think that the key to our success has just been doing good work, which obviously starts with having the team, which obviously starts with the infrastructure we built for that team to come in.
Well, that pretty much says it all, really, doesn't it? If you are getting those referrals. Now, I spoke of that earlier yesterday. I think I was chatting with someone, and as you know, I'm putting together a dental roll-up at the moment here in Australia. But with that, I've got to put together this back-end shared business unit so that they can get their numbers up and be carved out for a roll-up in the future. Now, I'm not going to be holding on. I'm not going to be waiting up. 2026, I'll be doing physios, chiros, and osteos as well. But what you're saying there about the referrals is, right now, it's just the 3 board members that are going out acquiring these dental practices. But once I've got 30 dental practices on board, I'm then going to have them saying, hey, look, they've done such a great job here. Look at what they're doing. I can go home and sleep at night rather than having to do books and things like that. And they're going to be the ones out promoting the service to the chiros, osteos, and physios for me. So the time that it takes me to build the dental roll-up is to do the osteochiro and physio is going to be much, much shorter because of that momentum that you're talking about there that you've created with your business.
Yeah, it's always if you're not an excellent product. And every time that you get a client, if you get three more, you've 3x'd your revenue without marketing anything. Now, so after you've built your product, after you've really figured out the core offering and value, which by the way, the value that I thought I would bring and the specific nuances from when I started to now, after hearing it from the client and refining the product is totally different. So if you take the time to refine the product and then afterwards you market, you get this effect of 3x, 4x, 5x, what you would have done if you just started with paid media in the beginning or started with content in the beginning. There's ultimately nothing that's going to replace having something good to sell to people that they find value in. And marketing is only the tool it's like leverage. Marketing's like leverage. It either amplifies it or it amplifies the losses too.
Absolutely. And so you're in Chicago in the US. How are you of any use to me? I'm in Australia. How are you of use to people in England? I've got clients in England as well. Where do you fit there?
Yeah. So the great thing about our model is that it's completely virtual. We have clients throughout the United States. We have the clients overseas. We have clients in the UK. We have like wherever it is, we can do it. Most of what we do is collaborative, and that could be done virtually. We do like to meet the client at least at some point because it's always good to have a face-to-face conversation. But in terms of our core offerings, a lot of the things can be done virtually. So there's no need for a physical location and we can accomplish it from anywhere in the world. And yes, we've had some interesting time zones as well. We've been able to adapt to that and we've been able to help folks. Obviously, each country, each industry has their own nuances, right? And for us, if we can be helpful and we have the expertise, then we're going to do it. Obviously, financials are universal, which is really nice. Numbers are numbers, which is great. And if we can be the right partner to folks, even if they're overseas or wherever they are, we can help them.
So HR people, as an example, and they are very regional oriented based on different laws. So would you take on an HR person in different locations, different regions, so one in Australia and one in England or whatever? Would that be something that you would take on, or do you not deal in that market at all?
Yeah, on the HR as a service, you're saying, or as like to offer other? We really stick to our core offerings are finance related and consulting related. So I'd say that we're handling CFO work, transaction services, strategic consulting, right? If it doesn't fall within that umbrella, it's probably not us, at least not yet. We're specialized in the industries and in the services that we offer, and we like to stick to that generally. There are plenty of other platforms that I think are more general than ours, and they're more about a talent and recruiting type of agency. That's not us. We stick to our core service, and I think we're good at that to be the strategic partner with folks as they scale.
Okay. So in my notes here, I've got history is littered with money and capital and finance. Probably not the most polite way of expressing it, but they're my notes. No one's going to know about it. How did you get to this? Because looking at your history, it really is littered with money and capital. What made you get out and start this yourself? And are you going to achieve, I'll use your words now, in 5 years' time, are we going to have to get one of your consultants in to go back and interview you and see whether you've achieved your goals or not?
Very good. Yeah, there's a lot of money in my background. I would say like this. So I started off where I actually got married pretty young. I got married when I was 19 years old. And I tell people it wasn't a mistake. I'm just Jewish, so sometimes we get married early. And I started school around that time, and Dad said, well, you got to make some money and figure it out. So my first stint as an entrepreneur was a kosher concessions business that does the kosher food for Wrigley Field with the Chicago Cubs in Chicago. And that's still a family business. My brother runs it now, but that was my first stint in the business world. At a certain point, I was messing around on spreadsheets, and someone told me, hey, there's an industry for this. And forecasting and all those things. I said, cool, I just like Microsoft Excel. And they just pointed, and then at that point, they pointed me into investment banking. And it's a very hard industry to get in.
A pretty big jump.
Yeah. So they said, hey, if you like this, you might like that. And from the second that I got into real finance and high finance, I just became obsessed with it. I thought it was so, like the first thing I was doing, I was working at PNC, which is a big bank in the US, and we were doing like FX trading, right? Trading of currencies.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, incredible that the entire financial world is connected and it's reflected in the currencies. It was really cool, a little bit abstract. And I said, well, I want to get more practical. Like, what can I do to influence businesses and things like that? And someone said, well, hold on a second. You may like private equity or hedge funds. So I had different experiences at a private equity firm. I had experience at a hedge fund. And then someone said, you know what, go into M&A, and found my way into mergers and acquisitions, did a ton of deals, had a lot of fun, and then wanted to do larger deals, so went to another bank. And then at that point, I was thinking, well, I have two options here. I could stay in the M&A world or do private equity or something like that in the high finance world. But after I'd moved to the larger bank from the smaller one, lost most of the people that I was interacting with at the companies that we were selling were huge businesses that were private equity backed. Right. And that's very different than the initial bank I was at, where it was all founders and entrepreneurs, and I was taking them through those transactions. At that point, I kind of missed working with them, right? I missed working with those small businesses. I missed effectuating the change. And I said, okay, what could I do on my own that could effectuate the same change, work with the entrepreneurs through those big events for them in the finance realm? And I almost triangulated into Warrior Group, where I could take people who had been in my position, been in investment banking, private equity, consulting, Big Four, CFO, and then translate that and give tremendous value, arguably more value than they would in their industry, in the higher echelons of it, translate that down, and then create something from there. And that's really what it was. And I originally had a few people reaching out. They wanted financial models or pitch decks or things like that, which they knew that I could do from my background. And then I said, hold on a second. Well, I can make a business out of this. And so that's what we did. And I figured that there were enough people like me that wanted something similar, and the bet was right. And there are.
Okay, so let's go onto those people then. How do you get such great people which are being paid 400K or were being paid 400K? How do you get them to come and work part-time, fractional? Why would they do that?
Great question. Great question. Okay, so there's a few parts to this answer. The first one is that the potential to make even more than they would have at a firm is there, based on
capitalistic pigs. That's what they are then, aren't they?
Right. So there is, based on the volume, and in each person is different, right? Some people are doing 6 or 7 clients, some are doing 3 or 4, some are doing 2, and that's not really like, we don't tie everybody that you have to be doing this full time and that's it, right? We really incentivize everyone to do it. Now, so the first thing is that there is that potential upside, and there are folks who are experiencing that now, right? Making even more than they would have in that firm, in their other firm and industry. So the capital incentive is there.
Yep.
The other side of it is that they've been in industry, and usually in the types of industries that pay $300,000, $400,000, there's not a lot of flexibility to be on your own time, to make decisions as you wish, to be in control, and to add value in the way you wish. So it's almost like people are able to build their own book of business with their own team, their own clients, manage their own time on the platform. And my pitch is, you have ultimate flexibility. Obviously, there's parameters within that, but I'll bring the clients to you, and I'll bring the team to you. I'll bring the brand to you, and you do what you love. And you do that on your own time, as long as the client's happy, and you do it for probably more money than you would have if you stayed in industry and worked for someone else.
Wow. Good pitch. Okay.
Yeah.
That was number 2. What was number 3? You said there were 3 reasons.
Team and the other professionals. So it kind of has a effect that once you get the strong folks on board, more people want to join that. Because there are a lot of folks out there that they've been fractional or on their own. They're high caliber players. They don't necessarily want to work for another company but they want to join a team and a community and have other smart people who are experienced be part of the room. And that's what we do. All of us meet together every single month, and we go over ideas, and there's collaboration. So you still get the team aspect of it, and people like being with other smart people. And on top of just the other team of CFOs and consultants around them on the strategic level, they also have the team underneath them, so they can lead people and they don't have to do everything on their own. So we've tried to attack it from all points of what somebody would want.
Well, I think it's genius, Donnie. I think it's necessary, and people they don't know what they don't know. You said that earlier. Whereas coming to your group and talking with someone there, they will make revelations within their own business. It will save them years.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's why I really wanted to get you on and get your message out there. Thank you so much, Donny. Is there anything else that you would like to leave on at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that if you're an entrepreneur and your business is something that you're deeply passionate about and you're not exactly sure how to scale it to the next place or the next spot, you're looking for the roadmap, you're looking for that financial direction, I think, like you said, Craig, like it's worth it to give us a call, and we'll be happy to be that partner in the room with you.
Well, to give a bit of an example, I was brought in during COVID to an organisation. They went from $300,000 in their first year to 3 million the second year to 5 million the third year. They then brought me in and said, we want to do 10 million next year and we want to do 85 million the year after.
Wow, okay.
So I went in there, I juggled around their manufacturing, their logistics, their advertising, got in copywriters. By the way, I should tell you what this organization is. Eyelash cleaning. They had 3 products.
Wow.
That's it, 3 products. Well, they had more by the time I left, but I was only in there about 5 or 6 weeks. And yes, people that know what they're doing can make a difference quickly. And it's worth it.
Yeah, and I'd say one more thing, Craig. I always have to answer this, like the company name, Warrior Group. Why is it called Warrior Group? And the reason is because I believe that entrepreneurs and anybody who is an entrepreneur knows this are modern day warriors in the sense of building something from nothing, from everyone telling you no, it's impossible and you fighting through it. There's a lot that goes into it, and any entrepreneur knows what it's like to be in the trenches, and we like to be a partner on that team.
Well, I'm very grateful for you being here, Donny, and helping people out. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. And all your details will be down the bottom as always.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me.